welcome to the Fiber Tales podcast. My name is Lærke, and this is a podcast about knitting, about knitwear design, and also sometimes about sewing. I'm coming to you from the southern part of Fyn in Denmark, where I live with my partner and our two small children. And today it's a beautiful, beautiful blue sky, sunny September day. The forest is slowly starting to change into golden tones, and I absolutely love it. It's always a little bit bittersweet for me with fall because we have a really sad winter, at least in the last years. We didn't have any snow, we had a lot of rain, and the days are really dark and short. So even if I love fall, I also feel a little bit sad that now we can't be out so much. But I try to really enjoy it and not think about what's coming next, like stay in the moment. And I really enjoy the fall, and I also really like the fall because it normally means that my knitting mojo is coming back, and I feel like it's been coming back. I'm still not completely like deep in the knitting community world. Like I'm not watching a lot of podcasts lately. I don't know why. It's just not on my mind. But I have other things on my mind, as I talked about in my last podcast, that I started adding photography to my little business. So I have been quite busy actually, going out shooting family sessions and weddings and stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. But that's not what the episode is about. It's gonna be all about knitting. I have some really exciting stuff over here that I'm looking at to show you. So I think we should just dive straight in. The first thing I have to talk about, and I think I shared it already a few times, but it's been released since we last spoke, and that is the Breine sweater, which is a sweater design that I started on back in, must have been January, February, one of those months. I have a little video showing my inspiration. Breine means fern in Danish. I was inspired by the fern. If you can see, it has this beautiful herringbone texture that I just absolutely love, and to me it looks a lot like the fern. It goes up in these very tiny little shapes, V shapes, so I feel like it just mimics that so well, and I really love this stitch. It's a fun stitch to knit, and so I wanted to try to incorporate it into a sweater, and I also wanted to create a sweater that was a bit similar to a sweater that I wear a lot, and I also got questions about in some of my older podcast episodes. That is an old Gotland sweater that my mom knit like 30 years ago. I don't think she used any pattern, but it's a drop shoulder, just sewn on. The sleeves are sewn on, and the body is straight. There's not much shaping to it, but I always end up wearing that sweater because it's so nice and warm and easy to wear. So I really wanted to recreate that shape in a way, but not just make a completely simple sweater, but adding just a little touch. So I think the texture up here is a nice touch. And so it has these sleeves, and actually I give instructions on how to work them top down or bottom up. Mine are worked bottom up because I prefer, when I do a 2x2 ribbing, how it looks when I'm casting on, not binding off, and then I just mattress stitched it on, and as you can see, at least I feel like it's giving me a nice and very neat edge. But you can also do it the other way. As I said, you can pick up stitches, and it's a really fun construction. So let me just see if I can show you a little bit. This is how it looks on the bottom. It's very simple. It has a rolled hem, so it's just a few rows of stockinette stitch, and it rolls over. So I think it's a nice and very simple finish. I tried actually to do a ribbed hem first, so it would be the same as on the cuffs, but it didn't really, I don't know why, it didn't look so great. So I guess because when you pick up from the herringbone stitch, it's a little bit tricky. So I didn't like how it looked, but I really like this one. And the fun thing about this is actually that you use some really big needles to knit and these are really terrible plastic ones, but I'm pretty sure I'm only gonna use them for this project once. Who knows? But I didn't want to go and invest in some really nice needles, so I just got these really cheap ones. It was also when I was testing out if what size I needed, so I didn't want to buy a lot of sizes and then not using them again, because I rarely knit on this size needles. I find they're a little hard on the hands. But when you're knitting herringbone stitch, you need to have you need to go up quite a few needle sizes. So the body is knit on size 5, and the herringbone part is knit on, check, I think they're size 8, and it roughly gives you the same gauge. But I found that even if I swatched a lot of times and got the same gauge, that when you have a big piece, because the herringbone stitch kind of tends to pull together a little bit afterwards, I still had to increase a bit. So I ended up doing some increases between the two sections, but also they're more or less the same gauge, not the same gauge, but the same, I have calculated it so you have the same amount of stitches with the different needle sizes. The fun thing is that you actually cast on the back. So this is the back, and you cast on with a provisional cast on. I used a crochet hook, but you can do any kind of provisional cast on method that you like. And then you knit up, and then when you get to the neck, you bind off. Then you work your way around, cast on again, work down, and then you start knitting the front, and then you go back and pick up the stitches from the back again. It sounds very complicated. It's really, really simple, and then you join in the round and knit the body in the round. So it's quite easy to do, and the herringbone stitch wouldn't really be easy, I feel, knitted in the round. So there's some flat knitting, some knitting in the round, and there's also some short row shaping. I ended up putting it underneath, under the section with the herringbone, just so it wouldn't interrupt that, and it hopefully helps a little bit pushing the shoulders into more of a slope. What else is there to say? Yes, the thing I really like about this pattern and some of my other patterns where I use this really simple, very square body with sleeves attached, is that you can attach any size sleeve to any size body. So what I really recommend with this one is that you measure both your upper arm, the circumference, and you measure your bust or your shoulder, like where you're widest, and you pick your size based on that. So let's say my arms, for example, they're very skinny, but if I had a big bust, which I don't, but if I did, I could, for example, go for a size M in the body and a size small in the arms. The only thing you have to do is that you have to follow the depth of the, so when in the pattern for the size small, it will say how far you have to go on before you start knitting in the round, and that is what you have to follow according to the sleeve. So you pick your sleeve size and you decide how deep your armhole will be based on the sleeve. So I think it's really simple to do it like that, and it really makes it easy to customize. Another thing I did is, even if this pattern, I based it on the female measurements, the same way you kind of can mix and match sleeves to bodies and make, of course, the sleeves longer and the body longer, and then it works really well for men as well. I think it's a very unisex kind of design, and the square shoulders look very nice on men. So I'm really happy because it's the first time I managed to get a unisex design out. I know some of my patterns have been knit for men as well, like the Retrosaria I've seen knit for men, but it's the first time that I kind of had that in my thought process as well. And some of my testers tested it for their partners, or I think one tested for her son. I will try to share some pictures. I know they didn't completely finish all of them, so but I will try to share some pictures once they send me. I always do that on Instagram, and on Instagram I'm Fibertails. If you're not following me there, that's where I'm most active. Although lately I'm maybe not so active. I'm trying to run 2 Instagram accounts, and it's just a little bit more crazy than what I'm used to. Anyways, it's a really lovely sweater, and before I forget, it's knit in a very nice yarn that is called Homestead. It's by Rain, Cloud and Sage. It's a German merino. The story behind the yarn is so lovely because it's yarn that she started making because she noticed that the sheep where she lives, their wool is not being used for anything. It's actually being, I think, burned or thrown out. And she started having it spun, and it's a really nice and plump, very dry, rustic merino. It's not very itchy. It's more like a dry, rustic texture. And I think it is really good at showing the stitch definition. So the only unfortunate thing about this yarn is that it's being discontinued. If you want to know why, I think you should go and check. Rain, Cloud and Sage has a post on their Instagram and probably also on the website some info about why it's being discontinued, but with some problems with the spinning. And so it's gonna be hard to get. I know there's still some in stock, and you can try to contact Ruth from Rain, Cloud and Sage, and she will try to help you to find some. She still has some on her website, I think, and it only comes in 2 colors. So the gray, this is a very nice warm gray, and also in white, like a little bit warm. That was hard to say. White. So I'm really happy. It's still a little bit warm to wear it, but it's really nice as a coat. Actually, this morning it was only 2 degrees in the morning, so we're starting to have the first frost. So I think I could probably wear it in the morning. Anything else I want to say about this? Yes, I would recommend as a substitute to maybe use the Rerum Natura Gilead, or Chiliad, don't know. And I also think maybe you could try to swatch with the Snelden 3-ply. I used that before, and that's also a very similar yarn. It's just not as tightly spun, so it's a little less plump. But you definitely want to try to find something with a good stitch definition and see how that will work. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Breine sweater. And I've been really happy seeing that a lot of you got the pattern, and it's been really nice to release something. I don't know when I will release the next thing because I actually don't have it. I have to put things into testing, so it will probably be a little bit of time. What else? So yeah, let me save that one for later. I have something behind me that I just finished a few days ago, and that is my Mondim socks. If you've been following this podcast for a long time, you probably remember, but I finally have 2. So I had one that I finished, as I said, a long time ago, and it's just been waiting to have its partner. What I did for this sock, and I don't know if you can see, let me just take it off. I had a little fun doing a slip stitch down the front, but other than that, it's a very simple, has a little twisted rib, 1 by 1, and a slip stitch that's running all the way down to the toes, and some rounded toes, and the heel has this, it's just a garter heel, heel flap and gusset. So, and on the back, the slip stitches end at the heel. So yeah, I had finished this one, and it's just been waiting, I feel like forever, but I really wanted to have these socks, and I wore them actually yesterday. They kind of saved my life because we went out for a photo shoot, for like an engagement photo shoot, and we ended up going into the water, which is quite cold by now, and when I came up I put these on straight away with wet feet and everything, and this is when wool is the most amazing because they just got warm and they didn't feel wet because the wool kind of absorbed the water and wicked it away from my feet. I don't know what it did because they didn't feel wet either. So it's been worn once. This is the, did I say it's the Mondim? Probably I did. I can't remember the colorway name. It's called 209 or something like that. I think she still has it. It's from the Retrosaria, Rosa Pomar shop in Portugal, and it's 100% Portuguese wool, and they're just very nice. Now the only funny thing is I think I blocked this one, I can't remember because it's been so long, and I've been knitting on the other one, and there are 2 things I noticed. So the first one is a bit more tight, and that might just be my gauge that is messing with me. I think though this one, since I didn't block it yet, it might just like tighten a little bit up if I wash it. I hope, because it feels a little loose on the sock blocker now. The other thing is that I don't know if you can tell, but take a look at the color. Okay, here you can probably tell this is very warm, like a purpley tone. Like, I don't know if it's warm, but it has a purpley tone, and this one is more muted. And yeah, maybe you can tell now. Let me try and switch them. I don't know if you can tell, but it's noticeable in person, and I don't know if it's actually just it will come off when I wash it, or what happened, because they haven't been lying in the wind or anything. So this is what I have left of the ball. So not much left. I think I can use this for maybe some socks for my little boy, or some heels and cuffs and stuff. So I'm happy with. It's a very nice yarn, and they were really nice to wear. So it's a yarn I will recommend, and I like making this very simple but with a little bit of details. The only thing is, I think I forgot, and I never take notes because I think I can remember always. As I talked about before, I always have a lot of confidence in my own memory, even if I know it's terrible. But I think, I was a little confused about where the line was supposed to go, and I think I should have switched it because of the toes, but that doesn't matter. It's not really noticeable. And I really wanted to finish them, so I couldn't be bothered trying to figure out everything, like starting over. So here they are, a finished pair of socks, and I just need to block the second one so they look a little bit more alike. The last thing that I want to share today is something that I'm so excited to share, and something that's really dear to my heart. It is some new yarn. I will show you in a moment. I just want to explain a little bit first. So if you are new to this channel, or if you have forgotten, I have had yarn made in the past spun from my parents' wool. My parents have a small organic farm with Gotland sheep, and those sheep, we would collect the wool twice a year, and I had it spun at Hjelholt Uldspinderi, which is a local to me mill. So all this is really close to me, and he would spin the yarn using a little bit of, or the mill would spin the yarn using a little bit of Falkland merino to make it possible, because the Gotland is a little bit difficult to spin without. I don't know if they can even with the mills they have. So he has been adding, I keep saying he, I'm talking about Henrik, who is the owner of the mill. Him and his wife run this mill as a little family business, and it's really lovely. Anyways, the yarn has been spun using this Falkland merino, and it always bothered me a little bit, because I love that the yarn was from my parents' sheep I've watched grow up. I know they have the most beautiful life. I also knew it was spun at a mill that is less than half an hour away from my parents' home, and less than half an hour away from where I live now. So I really like this aspect that it was very local yarn, but it bothered me a little bit that I had to add this Falkland merino, which was imported from the Falkland Islands. So I talked to Henrik a little bit and asked him if it would be possible to make something different, and to actually create something that would be 100% local. And he told me he actually had some Romney wool, and that we could try to mix in some Romney. And I was really excited. He showed me the bag, and it was so white and fluffy. So I wanted to do things a little bit different, also because the previous yarn was based on yarn that he already has in the shop. So very similar to what they had, but just from my parents' sheep, and then this Falkland merino. And this time I wanted the mix to be a bit different. I wanted the weight of the yarn to be different. So we decided to go for a 50-50 mix instead of a 75-25, which it was in the past. It was always less than 25% of the Falkland merino. But since I actually thought it would be nice to show off this Romney a little bit more, we did a 50-50 mix. around. And we actually ended up with a worsted weight yarn. I think we talked about a DK, but maybe I got something, we misunderstood each other. It doesn't really matter because I was either worsted or DK would be fine for me, but this time it's a pure worsted, whereas before it was some kind of weird sport to DK weight. Again, it's because in Denmark we don't really do the same weight system as in the international weight system or the American weight system. So where was I going? We talked about trying to hit I wanted to try to hit a more international weight, as I think it's a little bit easier for people to figure out what to do with the yarn. We ended up with a worsted weight yarn, which is so beautiful. I'm still gonna show you in a minute. It's coming. But I didn't know how it's gonna look. That's why I'm not showing you. I talked to him about this. We planned this, and actually I got the wool from my dad, but it was wool that he sheared in the spring, and it was really terrible condition. Some of it was completely felted, like it was like a big blanket. You could hold it out, that all the wool was stuck together, and you can't use it if it's too felted. It was very dirty from the winter. The sheep go lie down in the hay, and my dad, one of the problems is he has the how you call it, where you put the hay in. I have no idea what you call it in English. So like a basket for the hay, and they like to scratch their back on it because it's a lot of metal, and when they scratch their back on it, they get all these little tiny pieces of hay scratched into the wool, and it's impossible to use then. So I did a lot of cleaning. It took me a lot of days. It's also in some of my vlogs. It was really annoying, but I actually enjoyed the process a lot because I get to feel and it was also very dirty. But the dirt is the least of the problems because you can wash out dirt, but all the felted and plant matters can be really impossible. So I threw out a lot of wool. Actually, I didn't throw it out. I have it outside, and I'm planning to use it in my garden. I didn't manage to bring him as much as the other times, but since we mixed in more of the Romney, I think I will end up having a good amount of wool. I ended up having a good amount of wool. It's it was one big sack, and last time I think I had 2 big sacks, so it will be less, and it's again a limited edition yarn. If I make exactly the same next time, I have no idea. It's still, I think I could. Maybe I will try to go for the DK weight because I think it's also very nice to have a DK. Anyways, this time has only one color. That's also what is different because I did the mix differently. So I just took there was not enough wool to really make any color selection. Do you think you're ready to see the baby? Here it is. I can't get over how extremely beautiful I think this yarn is. It is so lovely. It has the quality of the Gotland, so it gets all this fuzz very quickly. It's lighter because of the Romney, and it's still very bouncy. It's quite loosely spun, but very nice and airy, and it's so light. It feels very light, even if it's 100 grams. It just feels very light. I'm super excited with how this turned out. I have a whole bunch of skeins here, and I need to label them, and then they will go into my Etsy shop. I'm planning right now that I will put them up for not this weekend, but the next one. Let's see if that works out. I would really like to have them out by this end of September. So here it is, and it smells so sheepy, and it's so wonderful. I can't get enough of it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And actually I made a little swatch because I thought it would be nice, first of all, to show how it looks knit up, and then I thought I thought it would be nice to try to swatch for the briny sweater and see if it could be a substitute. I think I would have to swatch somewhere around. I just finished this this morning, still a little bit damp. But because of I can see that it's pulling a little bit, but here's the swatch. So as you can see, this one is I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit loose. I think you could go down half a needle size to, this is a knit on a size 5, millimeters. I think you could go down to a 4.5 millimeters if you want a little more dense fabric, but it's very light and airy, and I think it will be so warm. And here you can see the herringbone. I think it has a very nice stitch definition, not as this is not so plump and tightly spun. It doesn't look as I don't know if I want to say good, but it doesn't look as crisp as with the Homestead that I used for the other one. But I think this has its charm as well, because it is very it will fluff up, it will be less defined, but very beautiful. So I'm really happy. I think this will make a beautiful sweater. It is itchy, but itchy in the way. All Gotland yarn, it is a bit itchy because it has these long staples that stick out. Don't know if you can tell. And the long staples are exactly what creates this that you can find prickly. And let me just try to show you. It has been blocked. Oh, there we go. It's been blocked, so it's a little bit, of course, plumped up, but you can see that it's more loosely spun. It's a 2-ply. Also here, but I think it's so perfect. I'm so happy with what Henrik made for me. And he was excited too, because it's nice to make something new, I think, for him. So it was fun. The thing that makes me the most excited for this wool is that it is all local. So everything in here comes from a very small radius from where I live. It's all within like 30 minutes or something. His sheep are grazing different areas and different fields, but they're all pretty close to where I come from. And it's about 30 minutes from here where they are now. And my parents' sheep, of course, they're also 20 minutes from here. So everything has not moved further away than, like, let's say maximum an hour from where the sheep grew up to where it has been spun. And I think that's just completely... Sorry, my phone was ringing. It's just completely amazing to me. And the other thing that I get so excited about is that this is for the first time, let's say 100% organic yarn. And in the past, I labeled my yarn as organic, or at least I say it's organic, because my parents' sheep are brought up on a certified organic farm. But the wool he was adding was not organic, so I put that. I've said that in the past, but this time the whole Hjelholt Uldspinderi and the sheep belonging to the business are changing to be organic. So they're only grazing fields that are not where pesticides are not used. They are kept within the regulations for organic farming, which means that everything going into this yarn is organic. The only thing is his sheep have not yet been, or he's in the transition period, so of course it takes a few years before you can actually call your things organic. It doesn't really matter to me, because what is the most important is there's a high quality of animal welfare, and that there is no pesticides used on the field where the sheep are grazing. So that means we keep the wildlife, or the wildlife, but also the insects, the birds, all the animals that live on fields and by fields, they can actually live there. So I think for me it's something so important, and I cannot be more happy with finally having a yarn that is all organic and all local. And it just feels really good. And it was something I dreamed about, but I didn't think it would be possible, and now it's here. And actually, because you could say the Romney is not as soft as the merino, but I don't feel any difference in it's not more rustic in that way. It's a different yarn because it has less Gotland than the other one had, so it's a little more plump and little less hard, but it's still, I tried to break the yarn with my fingers, and it still is quite a sturdy, strong yarn. So I'm gonna stop holding this up. I'm just really excited to have all these babies coming out to you guys. And I don't have that much of it, and hopefully in the fall my dad will share the sheep again, and I can see what I will make for next year. If I can get more Romney, that's a question I have to talk to the owner of the mill about. I think that is it for today's episode. I was just looking back. It's probably long enough as is. I'm gonna finish up some stuff, see if I can edit a bit before I go to pick up the kids, and I will talk to you all very soon. I hope you stay safe, because there's still a need for staying safe, and I hope that you get to do some knitting now that fall is here. I will talk to you soon. Bye.